Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 7th episode of Loops. For all those that are new to this initiative, this is a live webinar series focused on showcasing the research produced by the Horizon 2020 funded projects. I am Daniela Bruccoli. I'm responsible for the communication at Velva, and I would like to welcome Dr. Kristensen, representing CityLoops, and Dr. Taillebois and Dr. Nguyen, representing REFLOW. So today's topic is about the urban transformation. So we're going to be talking with two Horizon 2020 projects that are working to transform cities into more circular ones. So just before delving into the heart of the episode, I would love our guests to introduce themselves. So Dr. Kristensen, you could start.
Hello, my name is Tor Gausemel Kristensen. I'm the project manager and demonstration manager of CityLoops here in Bodø. I will tell you more about what that means afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Dr. Taillebois.
Hello everyone, my name is Manon Taillebois. I'm a project manager for the Parisian pilot of the REFLOW project.
Perfect, thanks. Dr. Nguyen, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Minh and Nguyen, and I'm co-founders of Fab City Grand Paris and WOW Architecture's office. I'm also teaching at the School of Architecture of Paris-Malaquais, and I'm directing the consortium, the Parisian consortium for REFLOW, the project we will talk about.
Great, thank you very much all. Perfect. Now, just a quick overview of what the episode will be about. So our speakers will present their work through a presentation. So we will go through each project. And then after that, there will be a Q&A session. So I will ask a few questions to our guests, and then we would strongly encourage our audience to ask as many questions as possible. And they can you can submit your questions directly on the below the session, the YouTube session, and then I will pick them up at the end of the discussion and I will present them to our speakers. Okay, now I won't spend any further time. I will give the floor to Dr. Kristensen, who will talk about CityLoops. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that. I will try to share my screen now. Hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yes, perfect.
Very good. I will give you a short introduction about what CityLoops is all about. CityLoops is, as you know by now, a Horizon 2020 funded project. We're a collaboration project presented in 7 cities in the EU. We have Seville in Spain, we have Porto in Portugal, we have Mikkeli in Finland, we have Roskilde and Høje Taastrup in Denmark, we have Apeldoorn in Netherlands, and we have Bodø here in Norway. And what we're doing is that we're developing a set of tools using technology and innovation for sustainability and with focus on circularity. So we're developing a set of tools to stimulate to a more circular city development with focus on construction and demolishing waste. CityLoops project is divided into 3 phases. It's the research phase. I've seen there's a typo there, research. The research phase, the demonstration phase, and the replication phase. And as a representative for Bodø municipality, we are a demonstration manager, meaning that we're responsible for actually implementing and testing and using these tools that I am about to show you now. Furthermore, after we've done that, after we tested these tools, we're aiming to replicate them these tools, inviting you or other people to use these tools that we've developed and tested. For now, Vienna is Bodø's replicator city, meaning that Vienna will try to use these tools that we have tested and developed in Bodø. Our demonstration project, the place in which we are using these tools, it's the New City, New Airport project. It's a huge construction and demolishing project here in Norway, possibly or probably the biggest one in Norway right now, where we are to demolish a military airport, or at least move it, and to build a new civil airport, and also to build a new part of the city on the area that is freed when the military airport is moved. So we have very big ambitions here in Bodø, and we're aiming to live out this project in an as sustainable and circular way as possible. The tools, these are the tools that we're developing in CityLoops. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see that I've highlighted two tools, number 11 and number 12. These are the tools that we in Bodø are responsible of developing: a 3D GIS-based visualization tool for monitoring and planning, and stakeholder engagement platform, meaning that we're developing methods and using methods to, in a bigger degree, include stakeholders, including citizens, in our city planning processes. There are also some other interesting tools, but sadly we don't have time to go through all of them. I can send you this presentation so that you can look further into them if you're interested. Focus in Bodø. What we have focused here in Bodø on our demonstration project, the new airport, new city project, is that we're trying to find solutions to make data more understandable via visualization. We're trying to improve how we're practicing sustainable procurement, or how we're practicing procurement in general. We're working, as I said, with Inhabitant Involvement. We're doing some circularity analysis to see how circular we are here in Bodø. We're developing solutions for material passports and data banks, and also we're working with circular business models, how to make money from acting more circular, to be short. We've gathered some data on how good we are at procurement, did some tender analysis here in Bodø, and also we've engaged students to go through the tenders that we historically have had here in Bodø, and found out that construction in general and construction operation are the two most important focus area, as that when we're looking at how much impact we can have by improving our practice in these different fields here. Construction is probably where we can do the most for sustainability purposes. We've also, as I said, gone through some tenders and found out that in award criteria we're worse than the average in EU, but in qualification criteria we're better than in the EU. And we also found out that in our tenders we're not that good at taking the whole value chain into consideration when we're setting the demands to our providers. So we need to be better at some things, and we need to be more. I think we need to be more consistent. We need to have more general rules on how we make tenders in order to set the right demands to our providers, ensuring that they are our providers is also practicing in a more sustainable and circular way. I just wanted to show you an example on how we have been working with Inhabitant Involvement. I think this is a fun example. This is where we invited some schools to build the new part of the city. introducing them for the concept of circular economy by letting them use waste to build their physical models on how they think the new airport should look like. So why do we have focus on visualization? Well, we think that it's a good way to make information more understandable, to make this information, as you can see my Excel sheet here with hundreds and thousands of rows with information, make this information look like this, for example. This is the same information that we saw in the Excel document where we have summarized the information and placed it geographically in a map where we can go into these observations and see, sadly in Norwegian, what kind of soil lies there, how polluted it is, what is the reason of the pollution, and the reusability of the masses and materials lying on this area. How many minutes do I have left? Do you know that, Daniela?
Don't worry, Tor. Just keep going.
Okay, thank you. So we think that visualization is a very effective way for monitoring and planning in city planning purposes, and also for inhabitant involvement. I want to show you a short clip here. We had a survey where we asked the inhabitants of Bodø how they wanted the new airport to look like. What you're seeing now, this airport does not yet exist. This is a 3D model of the airport, but it represents how it would look with the new airport. And as you can see now, I'm populating the map with some data, the red lines there. These lines represent the noise zones from the new airport, exemplifying how we are combining data with visualization, and we can use this data for city planning. Maybe we can plan which kind of buildings that shall be on the new part of the city that you can see in front of you now. As I said, I'm a circular economist, or if that's, I don't know if that's, you can call yourself a circular economist, but I do work with circular economy. And we find it really interesting to try to identify which kind of materials and masses lies on this area. So as you can see on that lollipop that I just showed you, we are accounting what lies there and trying to find ways to reuse the identified masses and materials. One of the actions that we're going to do is that we're going to repurpose the airstrip that you can see in front of you now, repurpose that to an emission road to the new part of the city and the western part of the city. This model that you can see in front of you now, this is an example on how we have tried to model how we could slice up a military hangar using the components to build, for example, a foundation to a bridge. I am speaking fast now and things are going fast, but there's so much I want to show you, so I have to do it given the time limit. This is a heat map that you see here. This represents the degree of pollution on the soil. This is actually the same Excel sheet that I showed you, but summarized really. I've dumped down the information to 3 different categories. That is not polluted, lightly polluted, and very polluted. These hangars that you see here, these are a response of from the service to the inhabitants when we asked them how they wanted to repurpose the hangars, because it's really hard to demolish these hangars. So the most circular way of treating them, I think, is to just find new ways of using them for a football field or a training center, or maybe you can use the shooting range that you're about to see here now, re-regulate that to a concert scene, for example. So this is just concepts that we're trying to play with in this digital twin of Bodø. These bars that you can see in front of you now, the bars that is moving up and down, that's the traffic. We have live traffic measures, so that we can try to measure the development of traffic in this city, and to see which roads have the most intensity in traffic. This lollipop that you can see here represents one municipal company and the waste generation, so that we can actually measure how much waste our different companies are generating, and we can also see how big of a degree it is sorted. So I have 1 minute left, maybe. I can also show you another way we're working with this visualization system. You can see here now I've deleted the hypothetical city, and this is the actual city, how it looks like now. And I just wanted to show you these roads. You can see here on the roads, you can see some data bars here. And these data bars, the green ones that you can see where my cursor is now, they represent the modeled emission from traffic. So we found it interesting in terms of circular economy, because we want to make scenarios on how much emission one could save if we treated masses and materials where there are, rather than it is transported on these roads. And these data bars that you saw can help us sort of like prove the effect of circular economy. But not only circular economy, but it can also help us to do some infrastructure planning and transport planning of masses and waste in general. What you can see here is a wheel that shows all the sustainability values in UN context, what they are looking into. In order for us to call ourselves a smart and sustainable city, we need to report on some 200 different KPIs, and this is summarized that data. So you can see that it's divided into 3 categories: environment, society, and economy. And you can go further into the different subcategories to look at how good we are at waste treatment, for example, or water and sanitation. We're not that good in water and sanitation, as you can see, because there's so much red areas here, meaning that the water quality is not bad, but we are consuming too much water, and we need to be better in that. And this wheel helps us identify where we have improvement potential and where we're actually doing pretty good. So I think I've used all my time disposable. Thank you so much for letting me speak, and I'm sorry if I spoke too fast. But I have so much information I wanted to show you on some short time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tor. It was really like a detailed general overview of the project, and it's just amazing to see how ambitious of a project is, and you know, all the behind the scenes work that you've been doing in relation to this. So thank you very much for sharing it with us.
Thank you for calling me doctor, but I'm not a doctor, so
thank you for clarifying. But yeah, there's so many questions that could be asked, but I'll keep them for later on, so that also we'll give time for the other projects as well. So Dr. Nguyen or Taillebois, who wants to start delivering the presentation?
I would start, but like Tor, actually, Manon and I are not yet doctor. So we.
I'll call you by your name then.
No worries. All right, so I will start to share my screen.
Yes.
So just need to. I will. Okay, this is the screen. Start the screen. And so is
Perfect.
Yes, nice. Okay. So hello everyone. Thank you for inviting us also to present REFLOW. So we will go to a presentation with Manon to explain what we are doing on this project, and it's a kind of also very close and similar of what actually Tor just present in a different way, because and I will explain also why. So well, that we already present ourselves. So what we are doing, so REFLOW is an EU 2020 found project, and we try to create, co-create and test circular and regenerative solution at a city level, but also in the focus of business, governance, and citizen level. And what is interesting is we have 6 pilot cities which have actually different thematics. And the idea is to co-create a set of tools that will be shared with all the partners and all the cities. So that's what we're trying to do, is to also transform urban metabolism from a linear to a circular strategy. So that's why we are the project's called REFLOW. So the consortium is actually has 27 partners in 9 different countries, and like I say, in 6 pilot cities. So this pilot cities are Amsterdam, Berlin, Milan, Paris, Belgium, and Cluj-Napoca. Belgium is in Denmark, and Cluj-Napoca is in Romania. The other, I think you know where it is. And the thematic we have is by pilots. So Berlin is for about heat waters, like how to use the public heat waters for actually warming different housing. Amsterdam is about textile. Milan is about food, Belgium is about plastic, and Cluj-Napoca is about energy, and Paris is wood on temporary construction. So what we focus in Paris is about event, for example, or temporary architectures that have like a lot of waste. Actually, they produce a lot of waste, and particularly wood, because we choose these materials for a first approach. But the idea is after to extend wood to the process to other materials than wood. So the Paris consortium is actually, and this is what is interesting actually about REFLOW, is based on the collaboration with the city of Paris and other organizations. So our organization is Fab City Grand Paris, that actually I'm coordinate and direct with Sarah Goldberg, Manon, Taillebois, and Nguyen. But there are also 2 other partners which are volumes, and I will let actually Manon explain what they're doing, but they are doing an incubation called Driven, and Arslonga, which are actually doing the Relabel. So now I will give Manon to. I will let Manon explain what we're doing better in details.
Thank you, Minh. So basically, in the Parisian pilot of REFLOW, we develop our activities around 3 scenarios. that are defined as desirable future we want to reach. So the first scenario is equip, meaning that reused wood material will be available in an easy and efficient way for reuse actors, and that specialized and non-specialized actors will have access to a fully developed and integrated pool of resources and digital tools. The second scenario is design, meaning that wood material will be reused between different event and temporary construction, and the use of reused wood material by those actors will be facilitated. Designers and architects will be able to conceive their project in inverted design process. Finally, the third scenario is raise awareness and evaluate, meaning that awareness around circular practices and technological solutions for circular economy will be raised among professionals of the event and temporary construction industry. So as you can see on the graph, we developed multiple solutions that are interacting with, for most of them, many of the different scenarios at a time. I will go more in detail in most of the tools presented there. And then Minh will present a concrete example use case of some of the tools in an event. So if you go to the next slide. The first tool is Dimension Use. It is developed by Fab City Grand Paris and WOW. The Dimension Use is a 3D digital scanner developed as open source to digitalize reuse materials. So basically, it's creating a database of materials collected through the construction or the event industry with precise measures of the dimension and additional information about the material state. Once it's digitalized, the material is accessible through a public database, allowing the actors of the full life cycle to get more visibility on what material is available and where. The fact that we have precise dimension allow designers and architects to develop projects using inverted design methods, so creating from what is actually available from reuse. And yeah, by developing the tools as an open source, we wish to create commons and expanding the number of users of the database, and thus being able to increase the reused wood material flow. So we believe that data is key to provide both visibility and to facilitate the transition to circular practices. If you go to the next slide, you will see another example on the importance of data, which is from material flow analysis, which is a method applied when applied to an event. It allows to measure its environmental impact and to identify the action on which to focus sustainability efforts in the next edition, for example. It also creates a solid basis for comparison and for measuring the impact of different action in terms of circularity. If you go to the next slide, you would see two examples of MFAs that were developed in the REFLOW project with the support of Metabolic. It is always represented as a Sankey diagram and read from left from the inputs to right, that are the outputs. Yeah, if you stay just there for a second, you can see the one on top is an analysis made on the wood flow in the Région Île-de-France in 2019. So it's quite a macro level analysis. And the one on the bottom is made at the event scale from the 2019 edition of the FIAC. So it's a much more micro level analysis, and it allows us to get different data and understanding of the material flow. Now you can go to the next one, which is a Driven Startup Studio developed by Volumes. It's an incubation program aimed at integrating advanced computational design strategy into early stage entrepreneurship for circular economy in the construction field. It is currently being scaled up as a startup studio, so don't hesitate to reach out after the webinar if you want to get more information about it. In the REFLOW program, Driven has incubated 2 projects in response to the challenge of creating circular flows of resources. So MatterSite, which is using an automatic scanning method for the end-of-life phase of building to support decision-making and value deconstruction materials. And the second project is called Element Reuse, and they are using RFID technology to reevaluate the life cycle of materials and building elements using data to trigger the reuse of appropriate components for buildings. If you go to the next slide, is the last solution that I'm going to present today. It's called the Relabel. It's developed by Ars Longa to promote circular practices made by manufacturers and to create a community. You go to the next one, I will go more into detail. So the Relabel acts for the transformation of designer practices within manufacturing workshop to facilitate the implementation of circular economy approaches within an ecosystem of actors in its territory. So by certificating the product and all of the effort made from to implement reuse practices, it's supporting to develop a community, and it's supporting all of those actors. On the next slide, you would see an example of the Relabel applied to a designer. So here in the example, you have Anne, which is a designer, wanted to promote her product made from recycling materials. And through being part of the Relabel, she gets to increase her network from other designers practicing reuse in her community. She gets to get inspired and share good practices about circularity, and she gets to values all of the time, for example, that she spends sourcing material, or all of the additional effort that it takes to be a circular designer. And finally, on the next slide, you can see that the Relabel can be applied both on the people scale, so for a designer, for example, but also on a space like a workshop, so that you can apply the same methodology and expand it to all of the projects that are designed through the places. Now I let it Minh to present it in a more concrete use case.
Thanks, Manon. Very clear explanation. What I will add just about what Manon explanation is also there is a layer of the database that is will be on a tools called REFLOW OS that actually will connect every database in Europe. That's actually one of the ambitions, a goal and ambition of the project. So now I will show a case study that we actually a concrete example on an event called Maison Objet. And Maison Objet is a fair about house and objects in the house. It's happening 2 times in a year, and the idea is how actually we apply what we just develop into this into the process of a firm, which has like actually is actually repetitive in a year. So the first thing is in last September we came at the fair, at the end of the fair, and we actually source the materials that were actually were trashing. They were destined for trash. So we get like 4 tons of wood, which you can see on the picture here, and the idea was actually to use the dimensioners to collect the data of all this element to create the first database that you can see behind. And after that, the idea is how actually from this database we start to create an exhibition scene for Maison Objet. The second edition is which was supposed to be in January, but has been postponed in March because of the COVID situation. And the idea was also to give a second life for the wood, but also a third life, has actually this element could be used for another usage and to reconfigure them for another purpose. So that's the base of the design also. So and here you can see the prototype of these elements, which has actually keys for connecting them and assemble them into different use. So some would be for shelf. So this one is like obviously for sitting a sofa. Sorry, was you. And so right now, what we are doing is this is the exhibition actually modeling 3D modeling for this space, which will be for the next exhibition of Maison Objet in March. And the idea is also to use the Relabel to actually witnesses all the elements that would be exhibit, which are actually all made by reused materials, and also the scenery. So the idea is to have this Relabel to be explaining the process of the object of the designers, but also of the sceneries. And then the idea is to how this exhibition go to another place. It's the Fab City Hub, and will actually create furnitures for the space, which is actually under construction right now. So that's how actually we came from the wood waste of the event that we reconfigure for the exhibition, which will take place in March, and after in April we will finish in the co-working space of Fab City Hub. And that is all being documented with the dimensioners, the scanners, but also the some driven process, and also the Relabel, in order to actually show how actually this is improving and actually reducing the waste of wood. So thank you for your attention, and we are now ready for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Manon and Minh. It's really incredible to just witness all these insights, coming from you about these projects. And I think that they both have some shared features in a way, concerning CityLoops and REFLOW. And I actually I was meaning to ask you whether you have some questions for each other, or whether you already knew each other's projects and you found some synergies, or you have some curiosities you would like to ask each other. So
yeah. Actually, if I may start, actually, Tor it's very impressive tools that you are developing, and this is something that I was wondering two things. The first one is like where your data is from, and the second is, can we actually map our data in your, for example, that what we is just like we are evaluating some stocks from different localization. So you will have like a kind of Excel, but this will be an SQL database that we could map actually with your tools. Is it possible? So that's the two. So where is the data from? Like what you show, and the second one is, can we use it for our purpose as well?
Yeah, so the data is from different sources, to be honest, but I can mention some of them because we are doing some data gathering not only through CityLoops but also through the huge building and construction project that I was referring to. For example, the soil data that I showed you in the map, it's from an external company called Norwegian Geotechnical Institute that has been there physically and taken tests and provided these data to the new city team. But I've been lucky enough to get a hold of it and do further analysis of that, making it possible to do city planning by visualizing this data. Other data, we actually have a very good waste management, or the waste management companies here in Bodø is actually really good at gathering data. So we get monthly data from them on how much waste is generated and what kind of waste, both in household data, but also most interesting for us, the in industry and business and industry data, making it easy for us to do analysis on that as well. Thing is, the area that I'm referring to, the military area, it's been kind of hard to gather data from there because the military air activity is just shutting down now, and there is still some restrictions on how we as civilians can operate there. But we're engaging an engineer in CityLoops in Bodø now to have the license to be out there and to actually do scanning of the buildings and other structures there, to not only scan the buildings and make sort of like digital models of it, but also account the what these structures are consisting of, the quality of the materials, and the reusability. And all this data that we're gathering about soil and about buildings and all the resources there really is accounted in, for now, Excel sheet. But the thing is that we're by learning from our other partners in CityLoops, we are to make a more professional database with all this information, with the reusability and with the quality, and also not only store it there, but populate the map that I showed you on the whereabouts of all these resources, and gather all that information again in a marketplace and make it available for actors that have business interest, construction interests in this area, ensuring that, or at least we have ambitions that will lead to the resources being treated in a more circular manner than if it were just to be demolished and transported to the waste management facility. We also are gathering data from other sources, from the National Road Authority. I showed you some quick examples on how we're gathering data about traffic, where the intensity of traffic is most intense, and how traffic are correlating with emission, because we have emission sensors here as well. And where we have not emission sensors, we are using the CityLoops LCA calculator to sort of like quantify how much emission the traffic leads to. So we are also working with some modeled data and also some scenario future data. As I briefly mentioned, how that we are trying to visualize how much traffic and how much emission it would lead to if all these resources were to be treated on the waste management facility, and we're showing that in these graphs, proving that it will be much more traffic, it will be much worse air quality, and it would affect, for example, quality of life of the inhabitants in Bodø. So, yeah, there's so many digressions in my answer now, but just to answer your question shortly, we're gathering data from Statistics Norway and Eurostat. That is more for the sector-wide analysis, the material stream analysis that we're working on, with the assistance from Metabolism of Cities, that is also in CityLoops. We're gathering data from our own observations. We're doing some modeling of data, and we're also gathering a lot of data from separate companies, for example, the waste management companies or the construction companies here. And that's probably the most inefficient way of gathering data, when we need to sort of like go into separate companies and try to make sense of all that data. But to come to terms with that, we have another project in Bodø called Smart Architecture, where we're trying to make a database where all data that is relevant for us is gathered in a data sea, so that it's easy for us that works with data analysis to just connect to that data sea and to get that that information that we need into Power BI or any other data management system. For example, the digital twin that I showed you.
Thank you, Tor, for answering the question. There's actually a comment from a participant from our audience. I'll show it. Yeah, she's also talking about data. She's saying data is often key to create circular solutions. However, it can be challenging to get access to the necessary data. Has that been a challenge also for CityLoops? And if so, how have you managed? So
it has been a challenge for us to gather data about material streams here, because Bodø is a small city and it's hard to find city-specific information about such values sometimes. So it has been necessary to do some downscaling of national or county data, and that compromises the data quality, we believe. But as I said, we're lucky enough in CityLoops to have metabolism of cities that works with such analysis. So we've gathered, we've had a lot of assistance from them in making these sector-wide circularity analyses that we're working with, trying to see how circular we are and how the material streams in Bodø is. But to answer, yes, it is challenging. Some data is easy to gather, but it is challenging. A lot of the data gathering is challenging, and a lot of the data is gathering is from doing manual hard work, being at the area, taking tests, evaluating the buildings, being there physically and gathering data.
Yeah. There's also a comment from Kimmo Hepea, I apologize for the pronunciation, is also adding that actually finding relevant data has been an issue in Mikkeli. And just to make you also understand that they've also collected data from different sources like Statistics Center of Finland, Environment Ministry, Municipality of Mikkeli, and local circular economy centers. So just to, to stick to the initial question. And Manon and Minh, I assume that you've also dealt with a lot of data for your own project. So would you like to comment on that or add your own feedback about it?
Yeah, so in our case, for the data collection, we went from the pilot side, we went a bit more specific. So we really collected data on an event, for example, so to understand what was the material flow there and how we could improve it and how we could reuse some of it and what cannot be reused and should be replaced, and this type of data. Then from data collection, it was more from metabolic, so it's another work package in the REFLOW project, and they use their own methodology, and I think they came up with the same type of data sources and what was cited there. So the statistics centers and the municipal data is the key source, but it's always a big challenge, I think, to get access to the data. And that's also why we focused a lot on the data in the project with, for example, the dimension use, which is not creating like city-wide data, but it's really digitalizing a data source that was not digital before, and that is actually still not so digital at the moment, but it's taking what is in stock as a reused material and what is collected from the construction and making it digital in a precise way so that it can actually be used and it's not really rough and approximate data. Maybe Minh can talk more about that. And there is also, I think, a question in the chat about it. So maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, we'll elaborate a bit more. And to complement, to complete actually what Manon say is, what we want to do is to consolidate a database, like actually what you mentioned, or have how actually everyone can access to a database in order to use it for designing and construction. And it's a very simple things to say, and this is also the ambitious of dimension use is like how actually this is open source that people can actually use it, and when you scan something, then it's actually feeding the database automatically. So so to the question actually from Pernil Canal, it's actually the idea to be integrated in a BIM model. So the BIM model, for people who doesn't know, it's in construction, is a 3D model with actually information, and so this information could come from like industrial database, but also, and that's the idea, from reused materials database. And so that's the next step is actually to create the bridge between the database and 3D modeling BIM software. And for the moment, we are only focused on wood, but in fact, we already extended to object. The dimension use is very simple database. The idea is to have like XYZ, because that's main dimension you need actually to build things, to actually do this, to specialize things. And that's why we don't use LiDAR, for example, technology, which actually will throw a massive number of point clouds, which actually will just create huge database. The idea is to have like a very light database that can be shared with everyone, and having millions of elements, for example, and local, so you can filters by territories. That would be very interesting, because then you are, it doesn't make sense actually doing circular construction or designing if you have to source it from Bordeaux and bring the materials to Paris, for example. It would be more interesting for example, as an architect to work on Bordeaux materials for a project in Bordeaux or close to Bordeaux, and the opposite, like Tor's working on project in Paris with the visualization of what we have around Paris. That's the idea of creating one big database, but with filters of territories. Right.
I actually see a lot of synergies when you're mentioning BIM models as well, because we're working with that as well. And the solution that we're working, we can populate that with actual BIM models created in Revit or anything, IFC models and FBX models and whatnot. But also not only the visual, but also have data connected to it, just like you said. Having data about, for example, the reusability and also actually energy consumption, how much these buildings are, how much energy supply they need, making it easy for us to visualize energy system analysis, for example. And we can also go on a detailed level to see which rooms in a building that is the drivers for energy consumptions. So we have a lot of focus on energy system analysis here in Bordeaux as well, and to visualize the energy consumption of the different buildings here, and trying to identify neighborhoods of buildings that maybe could share the supply of energy because they have needs on different time of the day. But yeah, it's related to energy, but not directly related to material handling in circular economy, I think.
Yeah, I will invite you to look at Berlin's works, actually, which was actually working on the heat water energy, and because there is excess of water, heat water, that actually is lost, and how actually they redistribute to the neighborhood. To answer also the question of Pernil Canal, second one is like, what is the time frame for integrating these two BIM? Is actually hope in at the end of this year. Right now we are focusing on making the device working for March. So in 1 month and a half, because actually REFLOW will end in May. So we have to finish it now, and we want just to have the scanners working, because we want to deploy it in resource centers that actually there's like a network of 300 resource centers that actually could be using these tools actually to create data and to digitalize their storage. So.
Okay, perfect. Tor, would you like to ask something concerning REFLOW or some curiosity?
I think you had a really good presentation, and many things is clear. But I think I will think about it a bit, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Sure. In the meantime, I actually have a question that's is related to the data collection, but also something else, because I think that in order to implement certain circular business models, it's important to have a collaboration between policymakers and stakeholders. So I was actually wondering whether you have some sort of decision support platform to facilitate this communication between the two and face some problems also related to end of life, waste or products. So who wants to start?
So you were asking if we have a platform to sort of like communicate to political
or some sort of other tool that facilitates communication between stakeholders and policymakers.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that makes visualization so efficient, is that it's easy for us to communicate. For example, the noise zones that I was showing you, it's easy for us to make an animation or a presentation to show where the noise zones is, where the pollution is, where the traffic intensity is, how much of a impact it would be have on the city if we were not to treat the masses in a circular way. So we find that this visualization tool helps us communicate the challenges that we have to political decision makers, and also the connection between stakeholders and policymakers. It's we are at least trying to implement a method where stakeholders can actively use this tool that we have, and try to come with suggestions on how the new part of the city can look, or how it can function. But we have still some challenges in implementing it. But one of the tasks of the new engineer that is to be working in CityLoops is to actually work on implementing this and manifesting this in the day-to-day practice in Bodø municipality.
For REFLOW, the work we are doing with the municipalities is double. The first one is how to show, and that's the purpose of the Relabel, for example. The Relabel is something like it's helping to identify and understanding the process to a community, but also a large audience. And so that's how actually we want to help to give awareness about the REFLOW project. And the second one is also the municipality is working on charts. They're actually giving a chart about eco-conception for fair, and that the idea is to integrate the tools that we are developing into this chart. So it's not like government rules, but it would be more like, if you want to be applying, for example, for subvention, then you need to respect this chart. That's, it's a founding. So that's actually at the policy level how actually they can do it. If that's what we plan to do, but right now it's
Just a super simple clarification. It's a charter and not a chart. So yeah, a political document and not a visual.
Sorry, that's correct. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. There is, let's see, another question from Pernil. Dimension use sounds very interesting. Has digitalization been done for other materials than wood? Can it be integrated with BIM modeling? And can we try it somehow?
So I think we already answered this question.
Yeah.
Actually, we anticipate. Or I was reading this.
And then there is, I'm just showcasing them right now. What is the time frame for integrating this with my BIM? And where can I read more about your dimension use tool?
Yeah, that's the same thing. I think we also answered this question.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, there's no more questions from our audience. So I think it's also time to, we're very punctual, time to wrap up. So I really want to thank you all for your presentations and for sharing your work with us. And I also would like to thank the audience for attending this event. And I'll see you in the next episode of Loops. And yeah, thank you, Manon, thank you, Minh, and thank you, Tor, for your
Thank
work.
you so much for letting us speak, and I will make sure to contact you in REFLOW because you have a lot of interesting things going on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.